My Care Dog, Emotional Support Dog, Ella Rose Hope Cloxton, Lab Mix.
Emotional support dogs. Emotional support dogs are dogs that provide comfort and support in forms of affection and companionship for an individual suffering from various mental and emotional conditions. An emotional support dog is not required to perform any specific tasks for a disability like service dogs are. They are meant solely for emotional stability and unconditional love. They can assist with conditions such as anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, mood disorder, panic attacks, fear, phobias, and other psychological and emotional conditions. Identifying emotional support dogs for the public. Emotional support dogs are often identified by wearing an emotional support dog vest or tag, letting the public know that it is an emotional support dog. Otherwise, their handlers will find themselves having to explain that their dog is an emotional support dog. Some businesses, such as airlines, prefer to see an identification card or vest that indicates that the dog is an emotional support dog.
Emotional support dogs. United States law states that an emotional support animal, ESA, is a pet that provides therapeutic benefits to their owner through affection and companionship. ESAs are not required to go through any specific training, but they must have the same training that a typical pet would have to get along in society and not cause danger or harm to others. Does an emotional support dog required to have identifying clothing? No. Federal law does not require service dogs ESAs to wear any type of clothing or harnesses. However, we strongly encourage you to make your dog look as official as possible. It will cause you far less confusion when taking them places, and you will definitely be happy you did. We carry the best harnesses and patches on the market, and you may order one by clicking here.
Emotional support dogs. An emotional support animal belongs to a person who is disabled. The person's doctor has determined that the presence of the animal is necessary for the disabled person's mental health and written a prescription stating the pet is necessary in the person's home. Despite any no pets regulation of the landlord, for the person's health, little or no training is required. The owner of an emotional support animal has no more right than any other pet owner to take their emotional support animal with them, either to keep one in a home where pets are not permitted or to fly with one in a cabin when pets are not permitted.
Therapy dogs. Therapy dogs are dogs that are used to bring comfort and joy to those who are ill or under poor conditions, such as those who have been affected by a natural disaster. Many people are able to connect with dogs and feel the love that they provide, and this has a therapeutic effect on them. Therapy dogs are generally very calm and well-behaved, so that they do not upset or make uncomfortable those around them.
Service dogs. A psychiatric service dog is a specific type of service dog trained to assist their handler with a psychiatric disability, such as post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorder. 1-2. Although assistance dogs have traditionally helped people with disabilities such as blindness or more recently deafness or mobility disabilities, there is a wide range of other disabilities that an assistance dog may be able to help with as well, including psychiatric disabilities. 3-4.
Service dogs. Service dogs are dogs that have been individually trained to perform a specific task for individuals who have disabilities. The disabilities can vary greatly, and so do the tasks that the service dogs perform. Service dogs can aid in navigation for people who are hearing and visually impaired, assist an individual who is having a seizure, calm an individual who suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, and even dial 911 in the event of an emergency. Many disabled individuals depend on them every day to help them live their everyday lives. An emotional support animal is just that. It's a dog that belongs to somebody who has emotional needs. Sometimes people will refer to them as therapy dogs or comfort dogs, but this is not recognized by the Americans with Disabilities Act. The person must have a mental health professional determine that the presence of a dog is necessary for them to continue their daily living habits. They are also required to have a doctor write a letter to this effect. ESAs are allowed to fly as well and live in housing that would otherwise say no animals. However, under the current ACA and FHA, Air Carrier Access Act and Fair Housing Act, an ESA is only protected as follows. An ESA may fly in the cabin of a commercial or private airline with their handler, and the handler does not have to pay a pet or other fee. A very specific prescription letter from a licensed mental health profession is typically always required by airlines, as well as advance notice in most cases that the passenger will be flying with an ESA. Landlords and property managers must make reasonable accommodations for tenants or prospective tenants with ESAs, even if the apartment, house, college dorm, or other residence does not allow pets. Reasonable fees may be asked of the client, similar to a pet fee. Besides requiring a letter of prescription, property managers, landlords may require that the prospective tenant's mental health professional complete and sign a third-party verification form. Service animals are defined as dogs that are individually trained to do work or perform tasks for people with disabilities. Examples of such work or tasks include guiding people who are blind, alerting people who are deaf, pulling a wheelchair, alerting and protecting a person who is having a seizure, reminding a person with mental illness to take prescribed medications, calming a person with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, during an anxiety attack, or performing other duties. Service animals are working animals, not pets. The work or task a dog has been trained to provide must be directly related to the person's disability. Dogs whose sole function is to provide comfort or emotional support do not qualify as service animals under the ADA. If you have an emotional support animal, please visit our website at isregistration.org.
The Emotional Support Dog Basic Kit includes certificate with the handler's name, the emotional support dog's name, and the date of registration. ID card also shows the handler's name, emotional support dog's name, and an optional photo of the emotional support dog on the card. Additional copy of ID card in case you lose the original. Both the certificate and the ID cards include the registration number, which can be used to look up the emotional support dog in the database. Emotional support dog tag can be attached to your emotional support dog's collar or vest. Additional options are available if you would like to add a tag, ID card, leash, collar, or electronic copy of the certificate and ID card. Emotional support dogs are protected under federal law, under the Fair Housing Amendments Act, FHAA, and the Air Carrier Access Act, ACAA. An individual who meets the proper criteria is entitled to an emotional support dog to assist them with their life. The FA protects individuals by allowing their emotional support dog to live with them, even when there are no pet policies in place. The ACA protects individuals by allowing the emotional support dog to fly with them in the cabin of an airplane, without having to pay any additional fees. Any dog can be an emotional support dog, and emotional support dogs do not have to be professionally trained.
The Emotional Support Dog Ultimate VIP All Access Kit includes embroidery. Customize your ESA vest with your dog's name embroidered using the best machine on the planet. Lifetime guarantee on your embroidery. Please note, monogramming may take an additional 5-7 days and we are unable to accept any returns on embroidered items. Text will appear exactly as you type it. Listing in our database, 2 PVC IDs. IDs are made with the handler's and animal's name along with the photograph that is submitted at registration. The handler, animal's name and photograph cannot be changed after the order has been submitted. Please refer to your registration under the My Account tab. If you need your name corrected, or want your photograph changed, please email support@isregistration.org before placing your order with your request. Once you submit your order, changes cannot be made to your ID or certificate. ESA vest, harness, official eco-friendly paperless certificate, electronic download available immediately in order confirmation. You will not receive a hard copy of the certificate. Free shipping. Harness is waterproof, weatherproof. Note, please refer to the harness sizing chart before selecting your size harness. A reshipping fee will apply to all exchanges. Limited time bonus survival guide ebook. Download available immediately. You will not be receiving a hard copy of the book. Please use the sizing chart below to determine the right size for your dog.
A medical recommendation is required. You are required to have a letter from a doctor or mental health professional recommending that you have an emotional support dog for your condition. You may be asked to present this letter by airline staff when flying or by your landlord when renting a home. Do you have a disability? The National Institute of Mental Health shows that more than 1 in 4 adults in the United States have some form of mental disorder. If you are suffering from an emotional or psychological condition, then you are entitled to an emotional support dog.
Look at that tail.
Consult with your physician for more information. List of disabilities. An emotional support dog can assist with various kinds of mental and emotional conditions. Here is a list of some mental and emotional conditions individuals may have that may be helped by having an emotional support dog. Anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, mood disorder, panic attacks, fear, phobias, post-traumatic stress disorder, suicidal thoughts, tendencies. Emotional support animals. An emotional support animal, ESA, is a companion animal which provides therapeutic benefit, such as alleviating or mitigating some symptoms of the disability, to an individual with a mental or psychiatric disability. Emotional support animals are typically dogs and cats, but may include other animals. In order to be prescribed an emotional support animal by a physician or other medical professional, the person seeking such an animal must have a verifiable disability. To be afforded protection under United States federal law, a person must meet the federal definition of disability and must have a note from a physician or other medical professional stating that the person has that disability and that the emotional support animal provides a benefit for the individual with a disability. An animal does not need specific training to become an emotional support animal. 1. In the U.S., federal protection against housing discrimination is afforded to mentally disabled persons under 2 federal statutes, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Federal Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988, FHAA. 2. These statutes, and the corresponding case law, create the general rule that a landlord cannot discriminate against disabled persons in housing, and if a reasonable accommodation will enable a disabled person to equally enjoy and use the rental unit, the landlord must provide the accommodation. Persons with disabilities may request a reasonable accommodation, such as a waiver of a no pets policy, for any assistance animal, including an emotional support animal, under both the FA and Section 504. 3. Pet deposits. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and Department of Justice have held that providers may not require persons with disabilities to pay extra fees or deposits as a condition of receiving a reasonable accommodation. 13. While a landlord may be able to recoup reasonable fees for damage done after the fact by the tenant and his or her emotional support animal, an initial security deposit may go against the purpose of the law. 1. The Ninth Circuit, in U.S. v. California Mobile Home Management Company, 9th Cir. 1994, for instance, rejected the claim that any fee which is generally applicable to all residents of a housing community cannot be discriminatory. 9. Specifically, the Ninth Circuit said that fees that merit closer scrutiny are those with an equal impact, imposed in return for permission to engage in conduct that ... a landlord is required to permit. 9. This case was not about pet deposits, however, but, rather, considered whether a guest fee and guest parking fee was acting in a discriminatory manner towards a disabled person who required regular home visits by healthcare aides. 9. In 1990. A HUD administrative judge enjoined owners of an apartment complex from charging a disabled person a pet deposit fee. 9. The judge held that an auxiliary aid, like a service, guide, or signal dog, may be necessary to afford the individual an equal opportunity to use and enjoy the dwelling unit, including public and common areas.
Get him!
9. Can a landlord be required to modify a no pets policy for an emotional support animal? In most cases, yes, but there are exceptions. Most cases involving housing and persons with disabilities are covered under the Fair Housing Amendments Act. Some are covered under Section 504 of the Rehab Act, and some under the Americans with Disabilities Act. To learn whether any of these laws applies in your own situation, consult a qualified attorney, your state's Attorney General, your state's Human Rights Commission, or the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development. Health benefits of an ESA. Studies have shown real health benefits for those living with pets.